Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, founder of Herbal 411, and today's topic is going to be breaking in. For those of you who have watched the Olympics, you'll know that when Usain Bolt hits that 100-meter run, they have a very small window of opportunity to adjust from being in the blocks and horizontal to being upright and moving fast. These guys have perfected how to transition from start to acceleration to maintenance and deceleration. I like to think of patients who are making their way into a lifestyle change as being successful even before we start. Just the fact that you're present or you're consulting me means that we're going to have some success. And there are cheat ways that you'll see at some weight loss clinics to just be on medicines and lose weight. The problem is, will you manifest a lifestyle change that will maintain you, or do you have to take medicines for the rest of your life to maintain that loss of weight? And I'd like to always embrace not using so many medicines, maximizing on potential, and avoiding injury. So at the outset, when people have gone from couch to 5K, it's important to pace yourself. I think a lot of us will remember running in grade school or high school, or even college if you're lucky enough to be a collegiate athlete. And when season first starts, you know a lot of people will go through the aches and pains of being broken in. You don't always go from zero to hero overnight. In fact, it's important to accept the fact that you will have some potential for injury and embracing that before you embark in this investment, for fear that if you have an injury, it's going to slow down your potential. Case in point, we're entering into summer in Chicago, and you have 3 months before school starts again. I like to say this period is when we try to maximize on our input and get the best output. But if you just go from couch potato to competitive runner, you're bound to have an injury of some sort, especially those of you who are older or nursing an old injury from before. It's important during this break-in period to have yourself evaluated by a physical therapist or a personal trainer that knows what they're talking about. In many cases, you can get a physician to kind of assess what's going on, but most of my primary care physicians have not studied sports medicine and they don't know much aside from anecdotal exercise. Even the orthopedic surgeons who really know joints and bones and muscle best, they probably don't know about exercise in the form of weight loss or lifestyle change to help avoid those speed bumps that get in the way of success. So if you can go see a physical therapist, and if it's not too expensive, I would get somebody on your team. The other reason for that is, even if you don't have injury, and say you had a back injury 20 years ago, if you haven't been exercising for 20 years, the likelihood is that back injury is still potentially there. So in many cases, if you cannot afford a good personal trainer or you live in the boondocks, having a physical therapist at least address your weaknesses, you might be able to get past your break-in period without an injury. Or some physical therapists are very gifted in putting together exercise routines to get you into the gym and not flare up your old injury. I love the guys at Athletico. I met the owner for Athletico when he only had one clinic or maybe two clinics. His wisdom still lingers on. So altogether, if you have an Athletico around you, thumbs up, give it a try. In the state of Illinois, you don't need a prescription from a doctor. You can actually go and get evaluated first. They can also rescue you. So if the break-in period goes too short, or you start to have shin splints, back pain, shoulder issues, problems with your knees, the physical therapist can rescue you. So they can deploy modalities to speed up your healing, like manual physical therapy, dry needling, phonophoresis, iontophoresis, electric stimulation. Some of them can even deploy Graston techniques, also known as skin scraping in traditional Chinese medicine. Bottom line is, if you get injured, or your delayed onset muscle soreness is getting into the 4, 5, or 6 day window, it's time to ask for help. To round off the team, I always say get a massage therapist involved, have a traditional Chinese medicine acupuncturist, and maybe even a chiropractor. Worst case scenario, you call your primary care doctor, you get a muscle relaxer, you get an anti-inflammatory, and maybe something to help you maintain sleep at night, like a painkiller. I embrace high-dose turmeric, CBD in proper form, and even topical helichrysum if you like essential oils. Depending on your age, your training expertise, and your medical conditions that you're dealing with right now, I think a 2 to 3 week window of breaking in is important. After the 2 or 3 week window, it's time to accelerate. Assuming your window of opportunity is short, like the Chicago 3 months, it's important to move through your phases quickly without injury. And the next phase is the acceleration phase. That would be when you still are cognition for injuries or the signs of overuse, but you also start to build up on your investment in exercise. Exercise can be in many different forms. It doesn't have to be cardio, it doesn't have to be resistance, it doesn't have to be isometric. It just has to be there. The most important thing I teach for my patients is to build up muscle and burn up fat without getting injured. I do not think that you can have a state where you can do both at the same time. In burning up fat, you're in a catabolic state where you try to break down stuff. Inevitably, when you lose weight and lose fat, you're going to lose a little bit of muscle, and that's detrimental. Building up muscle to burn up fat is an anabolic state, and you can't technically burn fat while you build up muscle. I know there's people who say on the internet you can do both at the same time or you can go back and forth between the days. I don't think that's feasible. I'd like to say that in the 3 short months that you're trying to invest and get maximum output without injury, it's important to maximize on your activity investment. That means volume per week. The volume you put in per week, I usually break down into the amount of distance you cover, the amount of time you involve yourself with, the amount of weight you lift, the repetitions you move, or the sets that you accomplish per day. If you add all that up, that should be your volume of exercise you've performed in a week's time. If you maintain the break-in phase activity and you start to increase your proteins or your fuel sources, without increasing your activity or intensity, you're going to gain weight. And again, you're going to gain fat instead of muscle. My idea is no matter what sex or age you are, you build muscle. Those of us that are 60-year-old athletes, I think we have the heart and resilience of being an athlete, but sometimes the body doesn't follow. And that's why this has to be a personal plan. To put you into a cookie cutter of just everybody do this break in, everybody accelerate and everybody maintain, you're going to have people that fall outside that space. So you're either going to have frustration or injury or not get to goal. And that's a lot of investment to say, well, nothing happened. For those of you who have just started exercising, you'll notice that you will have gains, meaning more muscle development, easy burning of fat when you start out in the acceleration phase. There's something called newbie gains. That means that any exercise that you do, if you're a newbie, will give you some form of benefit. The question is always, how long will you maintain that benefit and does it serve you? If we're trying to squeeze as much out of longevity as possible, you have to deploy these things on a regular basis. And so that we don't get burned out, because your metabolism, even if you go at 110 miles an hour, 12 months a year, your metabolism will eventually figure that out and it'll adjust. Typical case in point would be the Biggest Loser phenomenon, when you have these folks that are getting yelled at, diving down below the normal 1,000 calories a day and losing massive amounts of weight during the filming of that series. After the winner's declared and the filming is over, all these folks gain the weight back in addition to a few pounds extra. Mostly because the metabolism of those starving, overexercised participants tried to protect itself by lowering during their starvation phase. I can cheat your metabolism by giving you a woman's dose of testosterone in cream form or a man's dose of testosterone in cream or injectable form. I do not think you have to rely on these things forever, but during that acceleration phase, if your timetable is truncated, it's sometimes nice to hand off a little bit of testosterone so you'll have faster muscle building. This is not anabolic steroids. It's just a supplement to testosterone for those of us who are older with a little bit of a disadvantage in age. Once you've peaked on your acceleration phase, which I usually count as 2 months, versus the break-in phase, which is 2 to 3 weeks, then we get to maintenance phase. This is where you just maintain your activities and volume of exercise per week. So this might be the way you finish off your cycle or your period of exercise. Maintenance also gives you a respite so that you can take it easy for a while until your next cycle. One of the beauties of maintenance is if you've accelerated as best as you can, cut down calories as best as you can, maximize on protein as best as you can, the metabolism will try to figure that out. But if you maintain and ease up on the caloric restrictions, then your metabolism won't catch up. You should be able to maintain muscle girth, endurance, power, strength, yet continue to lose weight with messing around with your macronutrients and your total calories per day. You can certainly go for more than 3 months. You can actually plan out for 4 years if you're an Olympian. But I think that within the realm of knowing what's available for summer, and it's summer now, let's take advantage of this next 3 months, at least when it's good weather out. So don't think that you're alone. There's always online communities. You can always consult me if you want at my website, Herbal411, and get out and do something now. The only ways to reduce your chances of early death are to invest in a healthy lifestyle. Some people will need a little bit more coaching than others. It's okay. Bottom line is, the longer you wait, the deeper you get, the harder it is to reverse, and the more painful and longer your breaking periods will be. So get started now. Thank you for watching up to this point in time. Don't forget to subscribe, because I have a lot of other videos on how to lose weight, how to fix your gut, how to use medical cannabis for sleep. Stay healthy, enjoy the summer. I'll see you at the next video.